joining us today is Joshua Miller. He's an Amazon best-selling author, a master certified executive coach, and a creative leader in the personal and professional development field. Joshua, it's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for being here and for having me on your show and to talk about something that is that's very personal and something that I'm very passionate about. Thank you.
So, Joshua, before we get started, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, you mentioned that I am a best-selling author. I've been coaching. I have a master's certification in executive and personal coaching for 23 years, and I coach leaders from Fortune 100 all the way to Fortune 500 companies. I think the thing that most people may not be aware of is that I'm also a very much dedicated father, husband, and I have two boys, 11 and 6. And as committed as I am to being a coach and developing leaders, I am equally committed to developing my children and developing myself. So when you had reached out to me about this opportunity to speak on a topic that is very near and dear to me, I was excited. So that's.
I know a lot of your focus is on coaching corporate leaders and upgrading their skills and their mindsets, but along the parenting area, you said there's a lot that managers can learn from effective parenting, one of your blogs. Be nice if you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I think that so much of the work that we do in the professional space in developing ourselves to be better communicators, better leaders, how are we able to deliver and receive feedback? Those are skills that are transferable to outside of the boardroom, if you will, into the home or the classroom. And so looking at the skills that a manager or a leader would need to work in a company, those are the same set of skills that a teacher would use. And they're the same set of skills that parents can use to support the development of their children. Doesn't matter if it's a boy, a girl, doesn't matter even if they're 3 or 4 years old, all the way up until they're our age. We're all a work in progress. And I think one of the biggest things to remember is that it starts with the mindset. It starts with, how are we speaking to our children? What are we teaching them? And parents often forget, and again, this translates back to leaders and managers of people, everything we do and everything we say, we are modeling behavior, right? They say that 80% of communication is nonverbal. So that means 80% of the time, somebody is watching what you're doing. And oftentimes what happens is that people will remember how you made them feel versus what you said, which is a Maya Angelou quote. And it's very true. So one of the things that parents can do is remind themselves that everything that they do is being watched by their children, right? Just as a leader or a manager. And also everything they say is also something that our children are going to replicate, because if they see our parents do it, then they assume that is okay to do. So it's being really intentional on how you show up as a parent in the house with your children.
It's the same thing when you working with your managers and your team as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, along those lines, we have come up with something called the peace process in how you can handle, work with your children or communicate with your children. And the same thing, you can transfer to your working with your team or your colleagues. So the concept behind this is an acronym for PAUSE, where you pause yourself. Then it's all E stands for empathize, right, with either your child or the other person. Await is wait for the other person to calm down. And then you have communicate and engage. So it's like pause, empathize, await, communicate, and engage. So so we call it the peace process in parenting.
I love that.
So thank you. So I think that is something you can apply even, like you said, in not only in parenting, but in other situations as well.
Yeah. And what I love about that acronym is that one of the things that parents are guilty of doing, and so are managers, is we jump in. We jump in real quick to solve problems that either A, is not a problem that we need to solve, B, it's not a problem we understand yet, right? And so by pausing, that first step is so critical as a parent. Before we just rush to solve or fix or help because we don't want to see our children upset, find out what's going on. Which is the same skill that applies as a manager in if you're managing people or as a leader. And then the empathy piece, which is the emotional intelligence piece, again, a skill that everyone can develop, you, me, parents alike. And then of course in the business world, you must have emotional intelligence to lead in the 21st century. So I think just those two pieces right off the bat are phenomenal, and they're really well stated
Yeah.
and needed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, what you learn from your children, you can apply anywhere else. The other key point that you talk about, Joshua, is
Yeah.
how a parent changes you as a person, right?
Yeah.
So you can tell a little bit about your parenting journey and how that has impacted you as a person.
It's been an interesting journey. I grew up with an older brother
Mhm.
and two incredible loving parents. They provided my brother and I, and they nurtured us, and they gave us, most importantly, they gave us autonomy. They
Hmm.
gave us the space to express ourselves, to speak about what we wanted, what we needed. And I value that because it also helped build our confidence and our self-worth, knowing that we were listened to and we were heard. Um, and so that part of growing up was amazing. And I was very fortunate to have an older brother who cared deeply, and we were very close, and we still are to this day. I lost my father to cancer when I was 20 years old, and it was an indelible mark. It was a very critical milestone in my journey as a human being, but also what I wanted to be as a dad, as a father. There's an expression that says anybody can be a father. That's a birthright, but very few people can be a dad. Being a
Hmm.
dad is a choice. Being a father is a status, is a title. When I lost my father at a young age, I lost a friend. I lost a role model.
Hmm.
I lost a person that I could look up to. And even to this day, it's hard to talk about because he was so important to me. Why that's important, to your question, is so much of who I am today, who I
Hmm.
want to be, and also who I don't want to be, is role modeled after what my father left and provided me. Of course, and then there's my mother, who's an incredible, strong human being. And she is also an amazing spirit and a best friend. And she also happens to be a certified coach. So
Hmm.
we can also talk shop. And I'm still very close to her today. My parents are incredible human beings. And I know that my father is with me today and in the spirit of my kids and my wife and my family. But I was very fortunate to have parents who cared. They may not have been able to give everything that we
Hmm.
wanted at all times, but the one thing that they gave us was their unconditional love
Hmm.
and their unconditional listening. And love and listening are two incredibly powerful ways to show up as a parent.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I really like the way you said that unconditional love and
Mm.
unconditional listening are so
Yeah.
key to building that relationship with the children, right? And I'm so sorry to hear about your father as well. I can understand, what you probably went through at that time, at that young age. It's not easy.
No.
Uh, how has parenting changed you as a parent? You becoming a parent, how has that changed you as a parent?
um, it's humbling. I will tell you, it's humbling. Before you're a parent, you think that you're an expert and understand and know everything. As soon as you have a little child, one, two, or more, you realize very quickly there's so much that you don't know.
Hmm.
When I first became a parent, and I think this is true for first-time parents, we're so cautious. We're so afraid that we're going to break this little baby, and we have to do everything, and we read all these books and listen to all our friends and all the doctors, and we take in so much information. I think that we forget that part of the joy of being a parent is just being with this little individual. being with this little human being, and their only job is to look at us. They want us, they listen, they're taking their sponges, and we're so consumed with all this other stuff. For me, I was a first time father. The diapers, the swaddling, is our son standing up? Is he sitting up? It was a lot. And it taught me to be patient. It taught me to be humble. It taught me how to be resilient. And it taught me a lot about how to be vulnerable, how to admit I don't know what I don't know and I need help. And so that was our first child. When our second child was born, and they always say that your first and second child are going to be very different, and they are. Our second child, it was more like, I'm confident. My wife and I are working together as a team. We are our partners. And we know that having gone through raising a child, we know now what to do, what not to do, how much we don't need to do, where we need to do more. And I think the whole experience has made me a much more human, to be honest, just really just more humanity in myself. I understand now that there's so much more to life than what we do for ourselves. And we talk about, and when I coach leaders, talk about being selfless and being a servant leader and giving back. There's no better way to understand what that means than to have to care for another human being. Mentoring, coaching, that's not the same thing. Parenting is a full-time job. It is the most rewarding and challenging job on the planet. And for those who take it on, every day is a new day. Every day is a new challenge. That's the humbling piece. But I think it's a beautiful experience, and it's taught me a lot about myself. And, it's also given me some grace and the ability to be a little more compassionate with myself. I think as human beings, we're hardwired to be perfect. We want to try to get things right. And as a parent, there is no right. There's maybe right for right now or right in the moment. There's no right. You do your best. You go to sleep at night hoping that you did your best. You wake up in the morning and you do it all over again. And that's the job. And you sign up for it and you love it. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. You
Yeah.
don't know what you're getting tomorrow. Just when you think you got it all right, it's a new day tomorrow, a new experience.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, even my kids are grown up now, they're adults.
Sure.
But when I look back, I realize how much time I spent worrying about the future, that you missed enjoying the moment and the present with the child. You're more worried about, okay, which school do I get them into so they can get to
I
a
know.
college, and you miss the little moments. So today, when I talk or when I share my talk to people, I say, you know what? Just enjoy the moment. The future will happen, And I think
It's true. Yeah.
and I think that's so important. So again, it comes back to connection and being present and with your
Being
child
present.
in the moment. Yeah.
Being
So,
present. I just want to say that being present is the key to everything in life. Right.
yes.
When we're not present, we miss out on all the opportunities, all the miracles, all the moments, as you said. And the one thing that I think you will agree with, is that in a blink of an eye, our kids grow up really fast.
Absolutely.
So if there was only regret I have, is that I maybe didn't have children when I was a little younger, because they grow up quick and they keep you on your toes. And as you have kids, you need to stay active. You need to be with them and engage with them. So, yes. Anyway, you were going to say something.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on what you said. And I really like the passion with which you're parenting, and, the
Thank you.
unconditional love that I see in your parenting style so the other thing, Joshua, is, I want to talk to you about is, in your LinkedIn posts, in your TED Talks, and even I
Yeah.
heard an interview with Diane Hamilton, everywhere there's one thing you express concern about. And in your words, simply being bombarded by too much electronic stimuli.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
also wrote another very interesting thing in your link post. Your cell phone has already replaced your camera, your calendar, your alarm clock. Don't let it replace your family.
Yeah.
So your thoughts behind that line and what made you
Yeah.
say that?
So I'm 48 years old.
Mhm.
I'm proud of that. I grew up in a time where there were no cell phones, there were no iPhones. Um, we didn't have the internet. There wasn't the distractions and the technology that we're bombarded with today. And so, as a parent, part of it is recognizing that we're raising children in a society. Now, I understand culturally around the world, it's different, but technology is technology. It wasn't there then, it's here now. So, at some degree, as a parent, you're now dealing with this variable or circumstance called technology. And in some way, it is a part of how our kids are learning. It is an integral and an important part of their development. But as a parent, where we struggle, I think, and where I'll say where I've struggled, and my wife and I, is how much technology is too much technology. What we've found and what the research has shown is that emojis and the quick texting, the acronyms, all of that has creating a new way of people to learn as well as to communicate. And in schools, they're not teaching how to write with pencils.
Mm,
Kids are no longer learning how to write script.
mm.
um, they're going right to the iPads. And so there's an inherent breakdown of communication that's happening. Yet at the same time, there's a new way of communicating. So different generations are learning new ways to communicate. Older generations are having to figure out how to communicate in that style. So there's that piece that's going on. The other piece is that the advent of all this new technology is actually decreasing the ability for kids to think more critically, right?
Mm.
Because what's happening is that there's more of this instantaneous tweeting and texting and using emojis versus having to think, how do I communicate a full thought, a full message? How do I self-express? And right now, children really need to learn how to be self-expressed. They need to communicate, right? Especially at younger ages. So if you put a child on an iPad who's 6 years old, kindergarten, or 7 years old, first grade, if they're learning something on the iPad, that's great. But if they're spending hours just watching YouTube or watching something that is not necessarily teaching them something, that's not good. So I think that, one of the things that I communicate in my messages and I want people to understand is that technology is not a bad thing. Technology is great when it's used in a very intentional way. And as a parent, it's our jobs, not our kids. It's our jobs to determine and limit to what degree they can be on whatever technology that is for their own learning and for their own mental well-being. That's the other thing that people don't talk about. Too much technology for us as adults sitting in front of a Zoom or Google Hangouts, those types of things, our brain cannot handle that amount of staring at a screen. So imagine an adult, now imagine a 10-year-old kid or a 6-year-old kid or even an 18-year-old kid. We have to do better as parents in limiting how much time they're on technology.
So how do you manage that in your home, Joshua?
Sure. Yeah. So with our older child, um, so in the mornings during school, Monday through Friday, there's no technology, there's no TV, there's nothing, right? You wake up, you eat, you can listen to music, you can read a book before you go to school. That's it. After school, there's no technology for my older son until he eats something to make sure that he has food, right? This is about mental health and wellness and taking care of yourself. And then if he has an extracurricular sport, he plays on an elite soccer team if there's practice, or he has something else after school. There's only 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So that there's a buffer, there's a window before he has to get dressed and then mentally get his mindset into the next thing versus this long gap. Also, all homework has to be done.
Hmm.
Our older son is a straight A student. He's amazing. He's responsible. So we feel very lucky around that. Our younger one, who's 6 years old, he has an iPad. But he can't access a lot of different things, right? So we have parental controls on that. When he comes home from school, they come home at the same time. He has to read. He has to do some reading, and he has to practice. He plays piano. He's really good at piano. And then after he's done that and he's had a snack or something to eat, he could go on his iPad for 30 minutes at a time. And we have both parental controls on the younger one's iPad, and we also control the password and the time. So after a set time, it shuts off automatically. So they're very clear on when they can go on it, and they're very clear and responsible about what they can and can't do on it, and it works.
So it's really about setting limits and making the expectations clear, having agreements with your children on
Yes.
thing. So really today it's almost like we have to think about tech life balance in addition to work life balance, not really as children,
Yes, I love that.
as adults, right?
Yes, that's brilliant. I mean, tech life balance. I love that because it's our home life has been invaded so much by technology, and there's nothing breaks my heart more than when I go out to a restaurant or I'm with my wife and we see a family with kids of different ages and they're on their iPads and their devices. No one's talking to each other. Or you see adults who are having dinner or lunch. No one's talking. They're on their phones. It saddens me. Now, I want to be responsible in saying that when I see a family and I see kids on iPads, I don't know that family. I'm making a very broad, statement. But one of the things that my wife and I decided long before we ever got any technology for our first son, and even to this day, when we go out to eat, whether it's a picnic in the park or it's at a restaurant, no technology at the table, or in the house, no technology. We will never allow that. We bring crayons, we bring markers, we bring pad of paper, play tic-tac-toe, draw, bring a book if you'd want to read, but we will not have technology. That's just something we have steadfast on for 11 years. And it has made us a stronger family because dinner time, lunchtime, those are the meals where you come together to speak and congregate as a whole. And to bring technology into that is very divisive. So, yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. So, one more thing, how's from all your research and from what you know, what's the impact of this technology or overuse? We do need technology. We're talking today because of technology, right?
Sure.
So there are a lot of pluses when it comes to technology, but how does overuse of technology or impact our well-being? Well-being, my well-being, adult well-being, in addition to children's well-being. Right?
Yeah. So
family well-being as well. It starts with you at the beginning.
Yeah. So the impact on overuse of technology for adults is very similar to children. The difference is that with children, their brains are still developing. And so those neural pathways of how they learn are still engaging. Whereas as we've gotten older, our brains the neuroplasticity starts to slow down a bit. And so we're a little more set in our ways in how we do things. So there's very similar impacts, which are stress. Okay. Staring at a screen, whether it's playing video games or even talking through Zoom or watching videos, there's a mental stressor of focusing for so long without blinking your eyes, right? Our brains can only absorb information in chunks of 20 minutes or so, roughly, give or take. And just imagine, people stare at a TV screen, it's usually farther away. That's the other thing. So the other impact is our vision. More kids are wearing glasses or having vision problems because the amount of time that they're spending staring at a screen that's too close to their face. So there's a stressor, there is screen, then factor in social media. Social media as part of technology has led to depression. It's led to a lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, not just in women or young girls, but also in boys and men. And I think that there is also a maturity factor here that depending on what someone is watching, that actually impacts their ability to how are they maturing, how are they developing. So there is a lot of research that shows too much technology with social media And then too much technology, watching the wrong stuff is going to impact in a negative fashion how we process, how we think, how we communicate, how we interact with people. Watch a kid who spends 20 minutes to an hour watching YouTube or playing a video game. Once they get off, right? Once they get off the technology, especially a kid who is prepubescent or is going through puberty, right? Their hormones are now raging, right? Their body is developing, their brain is creating more endorphins and testosterone. There's a lot happening, and too much technology can escalate and accelerate this. So for boys and girls, depending on what they're doing and what they're watching, we have a responsibility as parents to limit and also engage. And I want to be really clear about this. It's not just about policing the technology as a parent, because that is one part of it. The other part is get curious. I talk to parents all the time. Do you know what your kids are watching? No, I don't know. I just know that they're in their room watching, or they're on their iPad for an hour. I'm like, huh. So they're on their technology. You're aware of that, but you don't know what they're watching. You're not looking, you're not talking to them. This is something as parents we should be doing. Hey, what are you listening to? What kind of music do you like? What are you watching? What game are you playing? That's not hard, right? I don't think that's a big thing to ask. It shows you're engaging. It shows you care. It shows you're curious. And I think as a parent, if you do that sooner rather than later, you're going to be in a better place to understand and then also limit and control to some degree what technology that they're using.
I think in teens is in particular, it's like how you ask them. It's they shouldn't feel threatened by you asking, but rather to show that you're curious and interested. I think the way you communicate that will help them open up, and share what they're doing.
And genuinely curious.
Yeah.
Not curious with the intention to take it away from them or make them wrong. Find out exactly what they're listening. You may learn something new about your child and what they're engaged in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so generally, yeah. So that leads me to, the opening quote on your LinkedIn post. It said, "It's time to disconnect from technology and reconnect with each other." Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that. So since 2019, we at parentCircle, we've been running the gadget-free campaign. The campaign is on November 20th, which is Children's Day, World International Day. We're urging families to turn off their gadgets for 1 hour in the evening between 7:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. and spend that 1 hour spending quality time with their children, engaging with them, playing games, chatting, whatever, but without gadgets, gadget-free.
Yes.
So it's a disconnect to reconnect campaign, really.
I love it.
And the idea is to create an awareness of, how important it is to spend time with your children gadget-free on a regular basis. It shouldn't be allocated once a year, but on maybe every day, or, set aside time during the week.
Sure.
So that's the idea behind this campaign. So I just wanted to, get your thoughts on what you think about this campaign that we've been running. And also, if you were to spend gadget-free hour with your family, how would you do that?
So first of all, I love this campaign. I think this campaign, it's to your point, it shouldn't take that one moment, that 1 hour once a year. This is something that we should be doing all the time. This is something as parents, I say this to managers in the corporate world who manage people. You shouldn't be meeting with your employees once a month. Every time you interact with them should be an opportunity for you to engage, get curious, and find out how they're doing. It's the same thing that goes back and applies as a parent. I think the campaign is beautiful. I think the campaign is brilliant. And I think the campaign is very much needed. For me, my wife, and our kids, what do we do in that hour? We play games. There's some great games to play. We play board games. We play some card games. We laugh and we connect, and it's beautiful. And we do it, throughout the week. But that's what we do. And there's so many things you can do as a family. It doesn't require any money. Just go take a walk, go have a conversation.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for your time. It's been wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
You.
Thank you.